Okay, let's get started. So today's the final class of the course, and what I thought would be interesting today is that I wanted to cover some basic things, some of the things that I've learned over the last 5 years as I've been working. And we're going to cover some topics like interviewing, right? What are the keys to being a good interviewer? And also when you guys are working, right? Some things like basic work etiquette and how to sort of handle yourself when you're working, right? That's really important when you're part of a company. But also, what are the best things for you to do as you guys continue to move forward in improving your English, right? And learning more about international business culture. What's the best thing to do, right? How are the best ways that you're going to do it? So let's start off with interviewing, okay? Now, you guys have both interviewed for companies before, right? Minsu, have you ever given an interview? Shin, I'm considering you've given interviews, right?
I was speaking Korean.
Yeah, that's fine, right? But all interviews, right? There's a couple of things that are really, really important, right? The first thing is confidence, right? I write this word down because this word is really, really important, right? It doesn't matter where you are, confidence, whether you guys understand this word, right? When you're confident, you believe in yourself, right? The reason why confidence is important is because you have to remember, a company is interviewing you because they think that you're a good candidate, right? They saw your resume that we talked about last class, right? And they feel like you have a lot of good qualities, right? That you went to a good school, that you're really smart, that you have great work experience, right? So they want to bring you in because they want to know more about you, right? This is very, very important, right? The company wants to learn more about you, right? So when it's the company, right? In this situation, the company wants to learn more about you. If you really think about it, who's the powerful person here? Is it the company or is it you?
Company.
Think about it a little bit more. The company wants to know more about you. I'm not talking about getting a job at this moment. You, right? Because it's up to you, right? They want to learn more about what you're like as a person. What do you look like, right? How do you carry yourself, right? So there's some things that are like, there's something called body language, right? There's a concept called body language. This is very important. Body language is, when you see someone who's kind of confident, right? When you think of them walking, right? You think of them having like correct posture, right? It's like you're standing up straight, right? You're walking confidently, right? It's not like you're just kind of like walking slowly or a little bit slouched, like you're looking around, It's a little bit different, right? It's important for you to maintain your confidence through your body language, right? As in the way, even if someone is just watching you, right? They should feel like you're a confident person, right? And it's kind of like the way that you shake hands with people, right? In American business culture, it's a little bit different. People tell you to have a firm handshake, right? But the firm handshake is kind of like, it can't be too firm. You can't be trying to break someone's hand, right? You kind of just clasp it for a second and you let go, right? You just kind of hold it for a second and you let go. So your handshake, right? Your posture. Your posture basically means like how straight am I standing, right? That's really, really important. How well you're dressed, right? That's also really, really important. So think about all of these things, right? It's your posture, right? It's your stride. The word stride means if you have a long stride, that means you take long steps, right? If you have a short stride, that means like you take short steps, right? So who do you think is more confident? Someone who takes long strides or someone who takes short strides? Probably long strides, right? Just think about it. Think about like you're back in high school, and the most popular guy, right? He's always like really confident as he's walking through the hall, right? He's got like a couple of people with him. They all want to be his friends. He's like, he might be walking slowly, right? But he's walking with long strides. He's got like a good posture. And all the kids who aren't that confident in high school, right? They're kind of like, they're just holding on to their backpacks. That's a really great example of body language, right? Think about that guy's posture. Stands up really straight. Think about his stride, right? That's body language, right? He's very confident, right? So the same thing as when you're sitting, right? When you're sitting, you should also sit up straight when you're sitting in front of someone. Okay? So those are some of the things that are really, really important. Now the other side about this is some things like it's important to dress well, right? So when you go to an interview, this is kind of obvious, right? It's kind of obvious, but it's amazing to me when you think about it. I have friends who've like gone to interviews in suits that are like wrinkled and stuff. I mean, you have to realize, right? When you're being interviewed, they're watching everything about you. They're observing, right? So the company is always watching. Okay? They're always watching. This is a very, very important principle. Let me tell you some stories, okay? There was a situation where someone who was interviewing at a company, he had to drive to their offices, right? So he drove and he parked his car in the parking lot. He got out of his car and he went to interview, right? You know what they did? They sent people to look at his car, not just at his car, right? They wanted to see the condition that the car was in. It didn't matter like if it was an expensive car or not an expensive car, though they probably wrote like what model it was and everything, right?
Just they're watching condition.
Yeah, they're looking at the condition of the car. They went to the windows and they're looking, is there like trash in the back seat? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it like very untidy and stuff like that? They're taking note of all of these things. Companies, a lot of times, they do very, very interesting things. Yeah, in America.
God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or to know their.
They want to know more.
Oh.
They want to know more about the person, right?
Just they don't hire just one person. There are many interviews.
Yeah, so usually companies interview a lot of people for every position, right? They might, for one position, they might interview 50 people, right? Well, 50 times they're going to send people, they're going to send some junior people. Let's say I'm interviewing you, and Shinsuke is like my colleague. Maybe our bosses will say, okay, Tommy, you interview Minsu. Shinsuke, you go take pictures of his car, write a report, a short report, and if you saw any like trash in the back. Companies do this, okay? And the other thing is also, when you are walking to the building, right? When you're walking into the building, and from the moment that you enter the building until the moment that you leave, you're being watched. There's cameras everywhere, right? So it's like, if you arrive too early for an interview, that's actually a bad sign. Right? It's actually kind of bad. If you, let's say, if your interview is at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 a.m.
So when you got there early,
Yeah.
is it bad?
Well, you don't want to be too early, right? Because here's the thing, right? Let's say your interview is at 9 a.m. If you arrive at like 8:45 a.m., right? That's fine. That's understandable. But if you're there at like 8 o'clock in the morning, or even 8:30, why are you so early for your interview? Now, tell me something. Remember what we talked about confidence? Right? Do you think a confident person shows up at 8 o'clock in the morning? Or do you think a desperate person shows up at 8 o'clock in the morning? Like he's trying too hard to show that I really, really want this job. Right? Because, okay, think about it this way, okay? I want you to think about this. A person, right, who is desperate, right? Do you think that, let's say, I'm interviewing with your company, right? And I show up at 8 o'clock in the morning. And the way I'm talking, I even start telling you things like, oh, I would love this job. It's like, this is like, I really need this job. This is the only interview I got. Does that make me a valuable candidate? Think about it. Or do you think I'm more valuable if I'm interviewing, if I'm confident?
They can't think about, oh, you have loyalty or...
They can, but you have to balance it, right? You have to, balance is everything. Right? You can't just say how much like, like here's the thing, like, let's say we love StarCraft, right? We love video games. So if your favorite video game company brings you in for an interview, right? Your whole interview can't be about how much you love their games. That's great. You can talk about that a little bit. You can say, I really love the games. I've been playing the games for 20 years, since high school or something. But it's more about you're being hired to do a job, right? It's more about you being able to prove to them, right, that I'm really intelligent and I have the capability to do this job, right? That's what's most important. Now, the problem is, right, a desperate candidate, right? Do you think a firm always wants to hire the best people, right? So someone who's a great candidate, a lot of companies will be trying to hire them, right? But so if you arrive at like 8:45, right, you're arriving at a reasonable time. It shows that you're confident. So a company will never ask you. A company will never ever ask you, are you interviewing at other places? You don't even have to answer that question. You can say, yeah. You can even lie in that situation. You can say, yeah, I'm interviewing at several companies, right? But what they're going to try to do is when they're watching you, when they're looking at your posture, they're looking at your body language, that tells them how confident you are. And if you're a confident candidate, you generally have options, right? So think about this. Confident candidates. Candidate means you're an applicant, right? Have options, right? Remember we talked about this, about options, right? Demand and supply, right? When you have options, remember demand is very elastic. When you have options, right? You can just buy a different brand of clothes. That's why clothing, if there's a small change in price, people react to it, right? So a confident candidate has options. Someone who has options is wanted by lots of different companies. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different companies want you to interview for them, right? So that makes you valuable. That makes a company want to hire you more. Because they know that, this guy, if we don't get him, our competition is going to get him. And if our competition gets him, that's bad for us. This is a talented guy. This is a confident guy. This is a guy who has options. This is very important. So I keep coming back to this. It's important. It's just like when you're giving a presentation in front of people. Always remember something. You know something that they don't know. Remember, Minsu, you and I were talking about this, right? You know something that they don't know. And that makes you powerful. And that means you should be confident when you're delivering your speech and you're saying, this is the results that our department achieved, and I'm going to demonstrate to you how we achieved those results. It's important to be confident because once again, you are the powerful person. You are in the position of power, right? That makes sense, right? Because you know something that they don't know. They want to know what you know. Even if you're junior and you're presenting to someone who's 30 years older than you, and your boss's boss's boss, it doesn't matter. Because if you didn't have some piece of knowledge to give him, you would not be presenting to him. Does that make sense? Right? He can't do everything by himself. That's why he hired you, right? So the thing is, what's really important is, so I'll tell you another example, right? I remember when I was interviewing for my first job, this was like 5 years ago. And I was interviewed by 4 different people at the company's head office, right? So I went in, and I remember how, and my uncle told me this, that, if they make you wait several minutes in between interviewers, right? That means that you never know. They could have a small camera inserted somewhere. And companies do so much stuff, you have no idea, right? They could have a small camera to see, like, what are you acting like? Are you walking around in the room? Right? Are you really nervous? Are you sitting, but you keep looking at your phone, you keep looking around, but are you really nervous? Or are you just sitting,